right, we're back for another episode of the Bad Ideas podcast with Beth Thorson. Beth, welcome.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the
Yeah,
invite.
yeah. This time, so we'll let the audience know that I totally screwed up by having the wrong microphone on last time around. So this is our second take of the intro.
Yes, it
But
is.
back to you. So CEO and founder of RG Collective,
Hmm.
and you grow everything. So started big company and then went small company and now startup consulting. Tell us about how do you fall into this, and also how do you make the transition from growing something huge to helping things that are like in their seed stage actually make a difference in turnover?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question because it is an adjustment, right? So you're used to
Hmm.
being part of this big conglomerate and having a lot of structure, and then you move to companies that don't have structure and they're founder led, and it's a really delicate balance too because it's someone's baby. So for me, what was interesting is these large companies that I started at. Uh, One of my first organizations that I helped scale was Phoenix International, which is now CH Robinson. So it may be a more familiar name for some of the people who are listening here.
Yes.
But when we started, we were a startup and we just didn't know what the word startup meant, right? It was
Hmm.
20 plus years ago. We knew we were building something. We knew we were building something special. And so through a lot of trial and error, by the time that I left that organization, and our team itself was worth over $700 million starting at zero. So you can understand the scale of companies. The
I
company
really
itself
see.
was worth much more. But we,
Yeah.
we worked really, really hard. The leadership, it was their first time doing it, my first time doing it too. So we learned along the way. We learned how to build an RFQ team, how to treat clients, how to scale and make an impact in an organization that actually was not easy to convince to have any type of change management. So there was a lot of fear from the leadership team to just let us run. And we did. And part of actually that acquisition was keeping our team in place. It was a negotiating tool for them that we couldn't leave. So I stayed there for a few years, but what I found is that I really did have this antsiness about myself. I'm a very
Want to build
curious
stuff.
learner. Yeah, I knew I
Yeah.
could stay there, get my shares. By now I probably would be retired, happy, have an easy life, all of those things, but I was bored out of my mind. And I found myself a little stifled until I figured things out. So moved on to a company that was about a 500 million company there, Seco Logistics. Great organization, and the reason I joined there was just the diversity of their products. So
Hmm.
I was allowed to become that curious learner again, transform my learning into things I had never even heard about, start to dip my toes into the SaaS world because they really had a very progressive system for the time. So it was mostly about that absorption of things I didn't know, which I always perk up when I get to learn something from other people. I have a few rules for myself, and it's work with people you're a fan of, right? And have people work for you who you're a fan of as well too.
Hmm.
So if there's something that you see that's special in someone, find them. It doesn't matter if you track them. I have a story where I tracked a really strong leader now outside a bathroom and said, I loved the way you presented when we interviewed 6 months ago. I'm building this team. This was at Flexport. I'm building this
Yeah.
team. We're ready now. And will you walk away from your management position and become an IC for me for a while? Because I think you can help us scale and work with these larger clients, and you're better suited here. You're going to learn more here. Other people who are very early in their career, but you can see that special something in them, really always cheering for the underdog, because those are the ones who are going to work so hard for you and are going to be such curious learners. So that part of it, kind of building teams within organizations, really gave me uh, such bandwidth to be able to see how other operators operate too. At Flexport, we had a major transition of executive teams. And so I got to see what true founders look like when they're figuring things out. More from a
Yeah.
they all come in as consultants, right? And so the actual action and operational piece becomes usually their challenge. And as a salesperson and a go-to-market person, it can, you can sell anything, but if you can't execute, then you get a little worried. So, learning how to cross those paths and talk to people who are building something too, and just being really empathetic with that. And so when I really left the logistics and SaaS world, because I spent a little time at a startup in the SaaS world, which in 4 months, it was like getting a PhD and founder relationships and everything that goes with that. I found myself getting all this inbound traffic, which was really interesting. I started an LLC one morning while my daughter was sleeping, and I thought, I want to leave a legacy for her. So I'm going to open up an LLC this morning. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm just going to have it, but I want to show her that I'm building a future that she can be proud of too. So I took her nickname, which at the time I call her Bear. Her name's Natalie, but I call her Bear, and I opened up an LLC that had her name, her nickname and how old she was at the time. And I thought, okay, well, I've got all this inbound traffic. Now I can bill someone for it. I've got my daughter's name on it. And just started to talk to these founders. And what I found is they have these brilliant engineering minds, right? And we all want to be everything. We all think we can be everything, but the truth is we're not. I can't go and I let the secret out. We can't be everything. But I found these brilliant minds, and it reminded me of when I was a 9-year-old girl sitting in this incredible gifted program that we had through my school district. And the diversity in how people thought was incredible. I mean, you had people where it was very obvious why they were there. They were writing equations on the wall, and we were all just, our mouths were dropping. But then we had segments where we were building these tiny businesses ourselves. My first business I ever built was this paper airplane company in this class. And I started to love just the decision-making process and the input and the collaboration. And I'm 8 years old, right? And I'm thinking, this is so fun. This is everything I want. And then I saw someone down the street during garage sales. Everyone does the neighborhood garage sales. And they had the most genius idea to make grilled cheese, macaroni and cheese, and SpaghettiOs for the neighborhood while everyone was going around shopping. And I thought, okay, I've got to go into business, right? I know that this is the place I'm going to go. And so because of that experience of working with really different minded people, but being able to communicate really well with them and work in tandem with them and say, I can tell you right now, your strength is in product. And I cannot believe you can do those cool things. So just as I mentioned at the beginning, seeking out people you're a fan of, they have a different skill set. I think that was kind of really what first got me interested in helping people and companies scale. And I know that's very strange to go back to 8 years old and say, I knew what I wanted to do,
It's
but
to
I
the
really
core.
did.
I don't think that's strange at all. I think secretly everyone wished they were in touch enough to say, hey, at my present age and present stage in career, I'm doing something my 8-year-old self would be proud of.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's the goal, right?
Exactly. And I had an aunt who was a very early director at United Airlines in the 70s and 80s. And that was nearly impossible at that time for a woman in that type of industry to have a role like that. I thought she was the most exotic, beautiful human being to ever live. And just watching her operate as what I like to call an HBIC, right? She was really crushing it out there. Although the B now I replace for head Beth in charge. That's kind of my mentality.
Right.
Sometimes I make
it.
remember your HBIC and that B's Beth. But just seeing that really drew me to business as a whole. And as I was at these larger organizations who weren't larger organizations before I started, I got really excited about the idea of taking that and transforming it and helping a lot of companies scale and taking all these genius people and letting the world see them as they are. And I found a lot through the process is that people know their product really well, but monetizing it and commercializing it is really difficult. And I can even share a few examples of that if you're interested,
I'm sure the guys would like to see.
So one of the companies that I love working for that's in my consulting world, and to circle back to that, it just actually was a very natural evolution. And as I
Mhm.
started to see more and more people coming inbound, I had never done any outbound effort at all. I thought, I think I've got something here. People actually want to hear what I have to say. And what I can
Mhm.
come in and focus on is, what are their big rocks? What's really important to them? And how can I come in and do that while
Mhm.
honoring the founder's vision and delicately kind of moving them the right way, right? With a
Mhm.
respect to where they started. And so, one of the companies that I work with, I absolutely love a wonderful group of guys, a Danish started organization. They were two best friends who knew each other in preschool. And the reason I knew I had to take the meeting was the guy who's still based in Europe said, I can't wait to see you. I'm going to come to Chicago, but I have to leave by Thursday because I have Metallica tickets for the weekend. So I thought, okay, I have to talk to this guy for sure. But they had this amazing product, and they were all industry experts, which typically founders are not always industry experts. And you have to be careful in your selection process with that too, because having some domain expertise gives you that credibility. But they weren't using their domain expertise at all. I mean, their system was customer facing for the freight forwarding community. They were all freight forwarders. And the very first thing I said to them was, well, where is built for freight forwarders by freight forwarders on here? Like you're missing your competitive edge, right? You're not telling anybody
Who
why you're so
cares?
different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like everybody else, they go in and they're not even speaking the same vernacular, and you've got this nailed. And so it was really fun to see how quickly even just changing that messaging got them really excited about their product, got the community understanding what their product was and what their differentiator was, and got them instant credibility. And one of the very first calls I did with them as an observer, someone said, wow, you can really tell that you're from industry by the way you're talking about this. And I thought, yeah, see, you know, and not a told you so moment, but kind of a told you so moment. And so, that organization, when you get the messaging right, and even from a fundraising standpoint, right, you start to think about founders get in front of people. A founder told me one time, well, I think I'm nailing go to market. I don't really need to have it. And he said, but I do go to every single board meeting and they say, what's your go to market strategy? And I'm like, well, you're not nailing your go to market strategy. So, that piece of it, of just being able to look at where people start and help them grow up, and know that I mean, you start a relationship and there's going to be a natural exit, and it's always for a good reason because they've gotten big enough to outgrow you and hire someone full time. Or sometimes in the consulting world, you love a company so much you stay at that organization as they grow too. But for me, at this point in my career, it's just really exciting to be able to share what I've learned from some really important leaders along the way. I've gotten to work with people like Ryan Peterson, who built Flexport, which, from a media standpoint, I don't think there's anyone who does it better. Um, I've gotten to work with Dave Clark from Amazon, who I have the utmost respect for. I know it's maybe controversial because there, is lots of logistics gossip out there. But what I can tell you about that man is he knows what he wants. He respects talent, and you don't get hidden. If you are strong, you are going to be seen, and that is how he's had a lot of success, just surrounding himself by really committed and strong people. And as we were building CH Robinson too, got to work with just the absolute best people. So learned a lot of what is right, learned a heck of a lot of what is wrong, and think that I'm very big on connecting with that persona and meeting people where they're at. And that's really where the foundation of my team is let's meet you where you're at, and then let's keep you growing and keep you happy and get you the publicity you need, and let everybody else know I'm a fan of you. Let everybody else become a fan of you too. So that's kind of how I got into it. I love the work. I really love it. I've met so many amazing people along the way, and I've learned so much from them too that I can't see myself doing anything else, really.
Yeah. Now you're unemployable. You've tasted the other side. You can't go back.
Yeah, right. Once you get a taste of of just the diversity of it too. And, we've talked before, I have ADHD, so I have a natural tendency to kind of need to do a million things at once or have a lot of diversity in my own life. And I was a late diagnosed woman with ADHD, which is pretty common now because little boys, it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
Little girls, when you look back and someone has talks too much in class on their report card, most likely they have ADHD. So it really just means that, you've got a lot to say about a lot of things, which works out well for the founders that I work with as well.
Yeah. I read something, I wish I could cite where it was. I read something the other day that said that ADHD is not a disorder.
Mhm.
It's a processing speed that ties directly to language.
Yes.
And the example used in the article was like some people are musically gifted, like they
Hmm.
hear a song and they know how to play it right away, versus
Hmm.
other people might take, you know, a couple days, a week to figure out all the different parts, how they go together, how to play it, practice it. And that difference is just because one person's like brain or composition is predisposed to understanding the music, and
Yes.
what we categorize as ADHD is just someone who's that way in thought and language.
Yeah.
So it's all
I
flowing
love
for
that
them,
you
you know?
just said that. And that's true
Yeah.
because honestly, my particular, let's call my music is walking into a room and very, very quickly seeing it all, right? Like I can
Yeah.
walk in, I'm like, okay, you should do this, 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 this.
Yeah.
You are really talented, but you're in the wrong position. And it just feels, it fills my cup. I can't even tell you. It's like overflowing when that happens
Yeah.
for me. So thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. My husband and I were just Googling this weekend because I said, when you have ADHD, you have like triple the thoughts going on all the time. And he looked
Yeah.
it up, and pretty much what you just said was exactly that. It's like the speed in which you want to
The
act
process.
and
Yeah.
think and all of that. And it's exhausting at times, but also really exciting at times. And
Well,
so I think it's
especially if you are where you are. I mean, you get to
yeah.
work with multiple companies, so you have tons of outlets for that energy to go.
Mhm.
It's a great place to be.
Yeah, and my career was very gritty. So I
Mm.
started literally working a midnight shift. I graduated high school a little bit early, and I had this gap before I was starting college. And I did an internship, January through June, which is a little bit unusual. But,
Mm.
I really literally started by handing paperwork to people on a dock and, you know, working this midnight shift. And all the people were so mad when they'd come in the morning because I was trying to prove something, being this young girl and doing all this stuff. And like, don't do so much at night. We are pacing it during the day.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny, but it was also really reassuring that I knew I loved the business world and was going to stay there forever.
Well, I'm very glad for the sake of your 8-year old self that you found yourself
Thank
someplace you wanted
you.
to be.
Thank you so much.
Um, Now, for a place you don't want to be is evaluating a really bad business idea that
Ooh,
may
I'm
or may not
excited.
have the potential to scale.
Bad
But
ideas
for the
sometimes are always really fun ideas, right? A little
yeah,
trouble is
well,
good.
my hope is at the very least it leads to a fun discussion.
Great.
Um, but for the purposes of the brainstorm, we'll assume so the founders of this idea are unknown people.
Hmm.
The company behind it is totally unknown. It's just an
Hmm.
idea for us to discuss. But we'll imagine for hypothetical sake that it's a real company and real
Okay,
people,
sounds great.
and see where it goes. Sound good?
Sounds great.
I'm excited. Now everyone gets to see your brain in action. We just like
Uh-oh.
teed it up and we get to do it live.
They'll
Let's
either
see what
run
we.
to or run away from it. We'll see what
No,
happens.
I think it'll be great. So let's see what we have today. Our bad idea is a gig economy CAPTCHA, a CAPTCHA
Ooh.
service that requires users to complete micro tasks like folding virtual laundry or assembling digital IKEA furniture to prove they're not bots. Um,
Oh,
so,
that
so
sounds awful.
jokes aside, I assume what this is. You know those CAPTCHA where they try to get you to verify, like I'm a human because I can match
A
the
hundred
shapes.
times. Like, click on the bike, click on the
Yeah,
bike, and you're like, I clicked on the bike. I am human. Yes, I get it.
I think someone's trying to turn those into productive activities. So, like, while
Okay.
you're verifying yourself, you're like filling out a form or filing something or organizing something. So, you're actually creating a unit of value while you're going through this task. Um,
Interesting.
Yeah, I
Is it
kind of think it's
related
interesting too.
to the product that you're trying to verify yourself for? So that would be my question too. So let's say it's an IKEA task, and they want the CAPTCHA, right? Is it a process where that's coming from IKEA, so they want to make sure you're capable of doing that, or is it just a validation that we're not going to give you the instructions until we know you're a human?
That's
And then how do they
interesting.
prove that? Do they videotape that? How do you go and then prove that too? There's a lot to think about in that way.
Yeah. So you're leaning towards like validation. So they're really trying to qualify you with the captcha.
I think so, because when you and as far well, I'm wondering if that would be what they're trying to do too, because there's two ways. There's one which is a security measure, right? And then there's
Hmm.
another which is almost interviewing you by seeing what you can do with the task. And so
Yeah.
you could take that and make it even I mean, I still think it's a bad idea, but you could take it and make it part of an interviewing process where you're almost cracking a puzzle, right? If that's the case too.
You can only apply if you can successfully complete the puzzle.
Exactly, exactly. What are your Lego skills? We'd really like to see if you can replicate, the Cinderella's castle and do it in under 5 minutes, and then we'll give you the code to start interviewing. So, I mean, I guess if you relate it almost to, let's call it engineering jobs, right? Or IT
Mhm.
jobs, I think a lot of times there's so many qualifiers and tests before you even get the interview that could potentially be a use case for it. Um,
Mhm.
However, I don't know how they would validate that just to give you access that you weren't a robot. Would it be a video? Would it be, and with AI, you can replicate that video. So
Yeah.
does that matter too? It's an interesting, I guess, end game would be really what would interest me the most as to why they would want to do it.
So I have a personal interest that I'm not going to totally expose, but
Mhm.
I'm seeing this in one very, very particular way. I'm seeing this as a labor arbitrage move.
Okay.
So I think someone wants like very basic tasks completed, and
Hmm.
they're like, well, everyone's already doing the captcha. Why don't I just expose my task in there? And if they can complete the task, they're verified and they can use whatever service is on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Um, and part of, so this is the personal reason why this is coming out. I think AI is creating so much so fast. It's like very
Mhm.
rapidly progressing into the nonsense category. And we're getting to a place where, like, yes, people can be afraid of AI taking your job, but it's really going to convert your job into more of supervisory.
Mm,
Because, like, when you have
yeah.
a million infinite machines creating infinite pieces of content, you're going to need infinite attention to make sure it's the right
Exactly.
stuff. And
It's never going to you're always going to have a human involved. And I think people need
yeah,
the word AI does scare people quite a bit.
I
I would
know.
agree with you.
Yeah. So something like this, where it's like your captcha is showing you three or four different images to represent a product, and you have to pick the ones that are most accurate. It's just
Mhm.
a simple feedback loop, but now suddenly you have human attention you can get access to, and instead of paying for it, you're trading access to whatever they were already logging into.
Yeah,
That's how
that's
I read it.
true. So do you think you could do that even with call centers and things along that nature? Because that is where
Maybe.
I think, and especially when you think about, I mean, everybody sends you to some type of AI tool, whether it's your cable company, whether it's your phone company. And so if you do that type of validation, if they're willing to put that work in and what you're saying too kind of gives product exposure, right? And so you're almost accidentally or intentionally advertising your product if you're saying, do this captcha and this is what we have and then name it. It could even call, there's
Yeah.
something
Ah.
really interesting about that too.
That's super cool. So if your captcha task is related to the product, like if it's an e-com site
Hmm.
and you have to do something, you have to like categorize product images, and then
Hmm.
you get into the website to see the product, you're kind of like pre-marketing.
Well, and the other thing it gives you too is analytics around the type of people that are clicking on your website, perhaps, right? So if you do
Mhm.
that and it's almost if I had three different ones, it's almost like the Rorschach test, right? You
Yeah.
look at it and you have three different options. it's kind of a first round of looking at who your ICP is, like who your ideal client profile is, because you're seeing the activities they can complete and where they're leaning towards. So let's say you give them three options too, who's leaning towards one. And now you have marketing data or you have talent data. So I mean, you could take a bad idea and make it a good one if you put it in the right place.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
What, so,
exactly.
so what, where do you lean the most? So we have the first two ideas you looked at were one kind of validating the human being, like
Hmm.
is this like well, I guess demographics, right? Like what type of person is this? The second one I think you had was qualifying them for like interview or
Yeah,
capability. Like, is this someone we want to work with? And then like my crazy spin was actually arbitraging labor with the CAPTCHA attention, which
yeah,
like of those three, I mean, the first two are like way easier to roll out. I think
for sure.
arbitraging labor is a ton of work and it might be self defeating.
Yeah.
But where do you lean? If you have to build one of these from this idea, where do you go?
I think I would lean towards the talent portion. I think
Okay.
when you look at that, I would either lean towards that or identification of your ICP, right? Like that
Mm-hmm.
marketing data piece. But I think from a talent perspective, there are a lot of things that you can't always learn from an interview, right? And listen,
Yep.
I've hired
Yeah.
a lot of people in my career. I've gotten it right most of the time, but when you get it wrong, it can be pretty disruptive to your organization.
I get it wrong most of the time.
Do
I
you?
think everyone's a superhero, and I'm like, you have so much
I
talent. Come here
know
and be
that
great.
is the problem with kind of being
Yeah.
in love with people, right? That's kind
Yeah.
of the hard part about it is when you're seeking out, because you can see some wonderful things about them, but they always talk about these three circles of you have your emotional side, you have your rational side, and then you have the wise piece that's in the middle of that. And we all sort of lean to the other two circles when we really need to go to the wise piece.
Mm-hmm.
And in hiring, that same practice has to come in place because I've met a lot of people that, hey, I would love to hang out with them. They'd be amazing. Or I know they'd be a great cultural contributor, but I also know that they'd probably be a better fit for a different type of job. And I've been in that situation before too. And what I usually
Mm-hmm.
do is say, I'm a fan of this person. I think they're great. They're not right for this role. Where would they be great in the organization? Or where can I push them
Mm-hmm.
towards that will actually give them more success? But it's tough. I mean, talent qualification is really, really tough. And then
Yep.
after you get them there, who do you invest your time in the most too? And then who do you let run free? Because that's how they operate better. So
Uh,
it is tough. It is tough to hire.
if only we had a captcha to just give us all the
If only we
information we
had a
needed.
CAPTCHA. That's what we need, a CAPTCHA.
Yeah.
But I actually think that's such a unique idea because if you do, I mean, it is a pre-qualifier in some ways, but you'd need to get a little bit. You'd have to make it hard enough to make it worth the results. It would have to show competency in it.
It's like a mini IQ test. Like
Yeah,
you
it is
must
a mini
score
IQ
above
test, but
this
don't
to make
tell
it
them
in here.
first, right?
Yeah, you're not being evaluated. You're being
Yes, we
evaluated.
don't. This is not about how smart, attractive, or no, but it actually is like how smart are you? Are you right for this job?
We just did one of these. I think actually the last bad ideas we recorded was on an AI bot that screened applications, like job
Really?
applications. Which, as much as that was a bad idea for the show, I think a lot of companies are actually doing
Yeah, I
that
was
in
going to say
practice.
that actually happens if you
And,
don't hit
and
certain keywords.
and there's a lot of like loss there. So I think our idea was bad. I don't want to focus too much on that one, but our idea was bad because we settled on the bot like randomly removing people from the applicant pool. So it was
Mm,
almost like a bias removal bot instead of a screening bot,
I know.
which we thought was productive. But coming back to the captcha, um, to the point you said earlier, like you hire a lot of people, there's a lot of talent out there, but um, you really don't know who's going to be successful before you make the hire. Like you
Right.
can listen to the wise part, but that I mean, maybe that can lean you in one direction or another, but it's not going to tell you what their like energy
No,
level is going to be like, how they interface with folks, how they
exactly.
face problems. You can't screen for all of that. So when you're thinking about the captcha, if it's evaluating competency and you get all these amazing problem solvers into the company, then what's your next step? Like, is it the same like review and screen process? Like, you already kind of know that they're at this level.
Right.
What do you do next? How do you approach a candidate pool you've already kind of pre-validated in a qualitative way, a real way,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, I think you expand on that, to be quite
Mhm.
honest. I think that's sort of a preliminary look at what their skill set is, and then you expand on it and you say, and
More
again, I
tests.
kind of like the idea of having three different options too and seeing
Uh,
what they lean towards, because it does show you. I think that will be the first indication of what they love, not just what they
mhm.
can do, right? There's a lot of
Hmm.
people who can do things. So, for example, I'm a licensed customs broker. I have my Six Sigma Master Black Belt. I hate detail. I mean, I love detail engineering. I like going through it with companies and breaking down their processes. But I don't. I don't want to sit and read law books all day, and I don't want to write contracts all day. But I
Mhm.
can do those things, and it's the same thing with people you hire. There are a lot of things they can do, but what you want them to gravitate towards is what they love to do. And so, giving
Mhm.
those three options gives you directional guidance as to where you should go next with them, right? So if the captchas are, you've got something that's around, um, it's more people centered, or you have something that's more data centered, or you have something that's very process centered, whatever it may
That's
be.
amazing. So you're getting competency and preference or bias.
Exactly. And what always misses during that interview is a lot of times people are coming because they need a job, not because they love that job. And if they don't
Yeah.
love that job, they're never going to reach their full potential and they're not going to be that happy, to be honest. And you want people to be happy. You want people to be
Mhm.
advocates of that company.
I think what people miss too about a lot of like companies are built to grow. Like not a lot of
Yeah,
companies grow the way that they should, but they're supposed to grow. It's like
right.
it's a it's a very crude representation of our organic nature. Everything reproduces and every role is supposed to reproduce too. So in theory, even if it's a production role, if it's successful, it should create another role.
Exactly.
So when you're applying, like even if you don't get that job, if you do a really good job and make a good impression, you might get the next one or another
Hmm.
one or a lot of, like you said,
Hmm.
can I push them somewhere else?
Hmm.
Because I think people always assume they're only being evaluated for one, and I think what you're creating here forces you as the hiring manager to evaluate the person for multiple roles at the same time.
Exactly.
That's huge value.
It's huge
Huge
value.
value.
And I've done that before. So
Mm.
actually, I can tell you a bad idea from hiring, something terrible that happened during a hiring process. And I'm going to protect the name. I'm going to leave the names out to protect the innocent. But
Yeah.
there was someone that came in that she had a lot of experience. We liked her. She thought she was really good. All of a sudden, the C-suite for this kind of mid-level position decided they wanted to get involved. We had already put an offer out to her, and the COO said, "Actually, I don't really want you to give her the job." And so I had to make probably the most difficult call in my entire, career. And I didn't want the HR person to have to do it because it wasn't her fault that this happened. But before that happened, I thought, okay, well, she actually is really a specialist over here too. So I'm going to go talk to this team and say, I've got this person who her resume actually lines up much better with what you need. I think she'd be great at what I need to, but we've gotten feedback this way. So I want to open this door for her because we would be losing a really good person. Even though someone
Mm.
doesn't think she belongs in this seat, she belongs in this one. And so
Mm.
I had to have this really tough conversation to pull back the offer, but then open a door for a potential another position. And I think it was handled in such a way with respect to her talent that by the time I hung up the phone, she was thanking me, which was strange and that shouldn't, but it was kind of
You
like,
did
listen,
well.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it was like, I'm so sorry that this part has happened, but I want to be honest with you about where you'll be most successful. This is the situation. This role exists. And she thrived. I mean, she absolutely
Yeah.
thrived. So we took a negative, turned it into a positive. But had we had the catch up, we might have been able to say, she's taking this job because she needs one and she thinks she can do it. But where she really should be is here. And we could have
Yeah.
avoided maybe some of that along the way.
Yeah, we're doing right now. We're hiring for our growth team, and you gave the three categories, like a creative category, a product
Mhm.
category,
Mhm.
and like a people category.
Yeah.
And I'd say about 80% of the people that are applying are all in like the product and data side of things.
Mhm.
And they're smart, super talented people, but
Yeah.
like they want to be spreadsheet masters. And it's like,
Yeah. And that's not
that's
your go-to-market
great.
strategy, right?
Yeah, you go with the
Helping
people
that.
people.
And
Yeah.
that's okay. Like that's
But you
great.
need those people too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, I love to spend time with people who are so different than me because
Yeah.
listen, I don't want to have to be able to do everything, but I want to be able to translate their language at least. I want to speak their language. Even if I'm not fluent, having enough, knowing enough about what they do actually helps me be a better partner to founders too. Because I
Mhm.
can go in and say, I'll give you another example of something. And I know this is a bit away from the CAPTCHA, but you can even use this with founders maybe too. When you think
Mhm.
about, okay, show them that and say, listen, you shine here. You shine here. Let me help you on these other two, right? Because I want you to spend 85% of your time on this. You don't need to worry about
Mhm.
this other stuff except for approving or disapproving on what we've presented. And one company, which was really exciting, they were doing autonomous rail work, but they're in prototype stage. They have a lot of regulatory stuff to get to. They were talking a lot
Mhm.
about building, POs and clients. And I said, you're so far away from having POs from people. And what we need to do is build a fan base for you. And we need to build a fan base that's a layer down. So you basically need to have a pipeline of people who are interested in what the person you'd be selling to would benefit from. So you need to go to them and you have to generate demand. And then when your
Mhm.
product is ready, you now have an ambassadorship program, right? All of these ambassadors who are saying, I'd love this if this happened. And that helps you with your regulatory piece because you've got a list of consumers who are demanding it. And so, sometimes it's just shifting the mindset too within these
Mhm.
organizations. And they're good ideas with bad processes is a lot of times what you find, or a bad go-to-market strategy. And again, behind the scenes was someone from the top threes, the Teslas, the Amazons, the even Flexport. I count them that now from an engineering standpoint. But it was an engineering mind developing a commercial, emotional strategy for your consumer, which was not his expertise, right?
Mhm. But you're the founder. You have to be good at everything, right?
Yeah, right? I
Yeah.
told you no one can be good at everything.
I think that's one of the biggest flaws. I mean, this is part of the reason why I'm doing the show. But one of the biggest flaws in the way that we storytell, like we're so hero minded in
Right?
our media that when we
Mhm.
do like behind the scenes on a company and how it got started, we always focus on just one guy. And
Mm.
sometimes there's like one pivotal human being that made the thing possible, and that's really cool. But I think most of the time we focus on the one guy just because it's an easier story.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen that.
and as you've seen in practice, it's when you put pieces around the one guy that things really start
Mhm.
to move, and it's because it's the team that makes the difference.
Yeah, and I think
And that's the magic of it.
it is the magic of it. And I think mistakes sometimes founders make is they're so stuck on building their own brand and their brand is themselves that they forget that their brand is their brand. And that the
Mm-hmm.
way to gain credibility is by showing the type of people you're hiring, by letting them get in front of the mic once in a while, so you can say, "Look, I know how to find talent, and I also know where my gaps are, and so I'm going to fill them with people who are as curious of a learner as I am, but have a different skill that they can complete kind of the triangle on." And I think that's a big mistake because from a founder and even from a company's perspective, everybody under that founder starts to feel a little bit disconnected from the mission if there's never going to be progression of their own career or their own visibility or their own, I mean, the best thing for a founder can do is to publish something about something their team did or someone on their team did, or highlight that, brag about the people that you're working with because you hired them. You hired them because you trust them and they're bringing something to the table. So um, lots of different ways to look at that, but I'm a deep believer in spreading the wealth as far as exposure for people in your organization. Make them feel
Yeah,
special because they are.
yeah. Well, it's the combination of ingredients that makes it good.
Yep.
That's the founder example we use. The analogy we use is like you can cook a steak really well, but it's better when you have sides and flavoring on it. Because after a
Oh, I love
while,
that.
it's still just steak. Right?
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
just going to cook it more. It's like no, it's still steak.
Yeah, it's still
Um,
steak.
all right. I really like the spin you put on this. I think this was a pretty horrible idea because it seemed in the beginning really gig economy CAPTCHA. They were trying
Hmm.
to find a way to like cheaply monetize human labor.
Hmm.
And I imagine it has to do with curation because like there's so much volume of stuff getting put out
Right.
there that's quick. It's about the same level of work as a CAPTCHA. But you're a way to intelligently use this to understand
Mhm.
talent, I think, is amazing.
Thank you.
Especially in an age where we're using AI bots to do our thinking for us.
Yes.
Introducing a product that tells you the capability of a person, but also their preference, is a
Yes.
huge advantage to any
Hmm.
business. And it'd probably be pretty cheap to roll out too. So
Yeah,
you
I
made
think
something
so
good.
too. And it could be
Yeah.
something that's early on in the interview process too, and it's not a disqualifier. It's just a where do we put, like, what makes most sense for you? We're not
Mm-hmm.
disqualifying from you. We're actually seeing, what do you lean towards and
Mm-hmm.
why? And then you can open up that conversation from that point too. Like, it's really interesting that you chose this CAPTCHA. And then I'm looking at the job description and it says this. Does this make sense? Or maybe it matches perfectly. And you say, I'm so glad you picked this CAPTCHA because this is what the job needs and requires, and the type of passion we want someone to come with about the work that's attached to it.
Amazing. Great vision.
Thank you.
How do people get a piece of the vision? If they want to get in touch with you, or they
Oh,
want to
thank you.
work with you, where do they
Yeah,
go?
absolutely. So you can go either to my LinkedIn, Beth
Mm-hmm.
Thorson, and you can connect with me there, or you can go to my website, which is www.relentlessgrowthcollective.com. The word relentless is in there for a reason. We really want to be able to help people. There's a get in touch with me button there. I was very excited. My buttons have been clicked lately a lot, so that's exciting for me. I didn't think people actually clicked, and when I got my first few, I was pretty excited about that. But they can get in touch with me there. You can also email me at beth@rg collective.com and do a free assessment on what you're doing in your own organization. Even if you just want to meet, I love expanding my network and meeting fund founders and exchanging ideas as well.
Amazing, amazing. There'll be a lot to them who see this one. So
Oh,
we'll make
thank
sure
you.
we have the links there and we can push it
Thank
out
you
for
so
you.
much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. This was amazing. You're
No, this was
fantastic, fantastic
so
guest.
fun, so
Yeah.
fun. And thank you for the invitation. It's just, I love what you're doing on this podcast. And hopefully, maybe we can take some bad ideas and make them good ones after all. So
Yeah.
it'll be
You
fun.
did that today. You did that today. Thank you so much.